Hey, I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. If you look in the description below, you'll see some Amazon affiliate links. I'm going to put a link to the movie I'm about to discuss where you can purchase it through Amazon, and I may or may not get some money back from it. It hasn't happened yet, but you never know. Also, I'm going to put some links to some of the equipment that I use to shoot these videos, like this pretty amazing backlight that I can change the color to. So today we are going to talk about this recent Vinegar Syndrome 4K UHD release of The Devil Times 5. This is a 1974, it's an early slasher film. Now it did beat, which most people consider one of the first slasher films, Black Christmas, to the movie theater by a few months. But I don't think it was recognized as much as this one. And this one eventually had a re-release. But both of these movies came out way before what we consider to be the main slashers, like Halloween and Friday the 13th. And they didn't really follow, this one doesn't follow the rules, as it doesn't have the teenagers in it and all that. It does have some kids, and it has some kind of middle-aged people for the most part, or the people that they're targeting. It was originally released in 74 with the title, it was People Toys is what the original title, and I guess they decided to re-release it a few years later once they I guess the slasher stuff was maybe picking up a little bit, but it wasn't quite in the Halloween, Friday the 13th era. In 1976, they re-released it with this title, The Devil Times 5, and also the Horrible House on the Hill. And when you look at the opening credits on this transfer of this movie, it doesn't say The Devil Times 5 when the movie is coming on. It actually says The Horrible House on the Hill, which is not, to me, is not as good a title as Devil Times 5 or People Toys. Another title they had in the United Kingdom was Tantrums. So as you can see on the cover, you have The Devil Times 5, but then you only see 4 kids. Now, when I first saw this, I thought maybe there was some kind of mystery element to the film, that maybe there was not really a 5th kid, but maybe the Devil Times 5 might be some kind of other apparition, or maybe the kids were worshiping something. But it turns out that the 5th kid is a kid, and it's actually the youngest kid here, a little girl, and you see her on the back playing with a human snowman. This was a fairly low-budget film. I don't know what the budget was. It doesn't say online anywhere that I can find, but you can tell that it was plagued with a lot of problems, as you can tell from the editing and things of that nature, especially during the kill scenes, which is probably the most distracting thing. During several of the kill scenes, it's all like they'll do like weird freeze frames, or they'll do slow motion, and I guess just because of the way it was shot, and then they ended up having to edit in an odd way. And apparently there was something going on with the director with this film, and second director had to come in and take over later on, I think, and they had to do some reshoots. So let's go ahead and take a look at the packaging real quick. So as you can see, this is a slipcover. Now this is how it's going to look most likely when you buy it through Amazon. You might have a slipcover on it, but if you buy it off their site, which I recommend rather than buying it through Amazon, if you go directly to their site, you'll know if you're going to get the slipcover or not. And sometimes you can catch it on a sale on the Vinegar Syndrome site, or you can choose to have it without the slipcover, and then it'll be less money. I do like the slipcover, even though the back is ultimately a little bit spoilery, but it's fairly effective. On the inside, we have 2 discs. We have a Blu-ray disc and a 4K disc, and there's also a reversible slipcover with the original cover, I assume, The Devil Times 5, and we actually do have 5 of them down here in a little dark, shadowy kids. And so let's get to the plot of this thing. So you have these 5 kids who are on this bus with these. One of them is dressed like a nun, and the nun is more of a teenager. But they're on a correctional type of bus that ends up wrecking, and most of the adults on board perish during the wreck, and the kids get out and they escape. And then one of the guys from the bus, an older guy, survives it, and he starts to chase them. Later on, he actually catches up with them inside of this building, and then all the kids. The weird thing about this part, I'm almost positive this is not the same actor. There's the actor that's chasing them, who's an older guy, and then it seems to me that the guy that actually comes in there to find them is a younger looking guy. Like, he's a different actor. I think this is one of the telling production problems that happen. So this is probably a reshoot, and they weren't able to get the original actor back. But anyway, so they kill this guy, and that's the first time and for some reason the lighting is sepia color, just in this one scene, and then they kill him in slow motion, and it goes on forever. Seems like forever. And when you're watching it, you're just like, oh man, let's just get on with this thing. So then from there, the kids go to this big lodge house where this group of business people, these mostly snobs and whatnot. I'm going to go into those characters a little bit in just a few minutes, but they go on to that house and they encounter these adults, and the adults have to take them in. There's a snowstorm sort of thing going on where they can't leave immediately, and so they take the kids in, not realizing that they're psychotic and they're sadistic and they kill people. They don't realize any of that about the kids. They just think they're normal kids who have been in a wreck, and they need to find help for them, but they can't get out yet because of the storm, even though it seems like maybe they can, and they just aren't very motivated to do so. Now, as far as the characters, the adult characters in the film, now the top billing goes to Cyril Book, who plays a character named Harvey Beckman. Now, this actor, he played the character Boss Hogg on the Dukes of Hazzard show, so I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else but the Dukes of Hazzard. But here he plays a completely different type of character. He's one of the businessmen who brings his wife with him, and he's kind of the one that's he's been shit on a bunch by the boss, and his wife is like telling him that she's trying to push him to ask for a promotion and a raise, and he doesn't feel very comfortable doing it to begin with, but he's also trying to look for the right opportunity. And there's like times when they're at dinner, eating at a restaurant, and she's like, "You had an opportunity right there," and he's all like, "It wasn't the right time. We're in front of all these other people." So clearly she's pushing him, and he's feeling very uncomfortable. So he seems like the type of character who you kind of feel sorry for a little bit, but eventually his true colors are shown when he's dealing with the kids later on, and he starts to play chess with one of the kids, and the kid's kind of talking a lot of smack to him, and eventually he beats the kid at chess, and then he starts talking smack back, and then which kind of infuriates the kid, and then later on, he's chopping wood. He's trying to show the kid how to chop wood, and he just really starts kind of belittling the kid. I guess he thinks maybe he's trying to motivate him, but he does seem like he's been bullied, but he's also a bully himself to younger people. Now, he is top billed, but he's not the main character. The main character is a character named Rick, played by Taylor Lautner. I believe that's how you pronounce it, but I don't recognize the actor. I've never seen him in anything else before. And he seems too old in a way to play this character, but he's the character itself he thinks he's a big stud. He's dating the boss's daughter, and then the daughter, he also has previously been in a relationship, or at least had sex with the boss's new young wife. So he's the women all want him, and they're kind of fighting over him a little bit, and he's arrogant. And I don't know, immediately, like, I didn't like him. I think that it's probably because I didn't like necessarily the way the actor looked. The actor playing this character, I don't believe was cast right. He would have been fine playing one of the other characters, but to me, it doesn't feel like the type of character this guy could be playing. I immediately didn't like him. Now, most of these characters, I think, are intentionally supposed to be unlikable, because what happened, the kids end up killing most of them. They're kind of made, I guess, presented this way so that when they are killed, that it's okay that they're killed because you don't like them. But even though, now the boss's daughter is probably the only likable character of the bunch, though she is a little bit spoiled, but she never does anything to come off as too snobbish. As far as the other characters, the Gene Evans, which I wasn't really familiar with the actor, but he's a prolific actor, or he was, and he was in lots of TV shows and film film credits, and mostly smaller parts, but he did have a lot of credits, and he'd been acting for a long time. Here he plays the father who owns the house. He's the boss, and he's kind of pompous, as he should be, and he kind of likes everyone to be almost like asking him for stuff and things of that nature. But I do like the way he plays his character. I really like the way Cyril Book plays Harvey Beckman. But I did like the way this guy played the character. Now, at first, when I first was seeing the setup of all the adult characters, I was a little concerned because just because of the ages, and even though the lady who plays the daughter, her name was Joan McCall. She seemed younger than most of the others, but most of the cast is fairly middle aged or older, which is kind of for a slasher film. This was an earlier slasher film, but for a slasher film, they did seem a little old. But as you're watching it, you understand why the characters are the way that they are, why they were cast that way. And one other character I want to mention that I mentioned already, but the wife of Papa Doc, that's the Papa Doc's the boss and the owner of the house, but his new wife, played by Shelley Morrison, who as far as I can tell didn't do a lot more. I thought she was really good in this movie. I'm surprised she didn't do a lot more stuff, but she is she tries to sleep. There's also a caretaker who seems to be a little bit mentally challenged, but for some reason she just wants to sleep with everybody. She wants to sleep with him, which makes him really uncomfortable. And the daughter comes in and catches it, and then there's like this hilarious cat fight between her and the new wife. When the kids get there, they come in, and some of the adults like the kids, but even those kids are even the ones that the adults like. They're gonna kill them anyway. So as far as the 5 kids, you've got this military guy named Mo, and then you've got David, who seems to be kind of the leader, and Susan, and then Sister Hannah, and also little Mo. Now, at first you're like, that little girl, she's a real little girl. You're like, what is she going to do? But she's not going to be involved with all this killing. But she is. She is, and that's the thing. And now this is a very disturbing movie, and these kids like killing these people. I was fairly disturbed by it. Now it goes like, it's not really until the last kind of act, like the last half hour, when they really, because the kids are there, and they kind of kill the caretaker first, but then no one really knows that the kids did it yet. They're starting to suspect it and things of that nature, but the adults are kind of far up their own asses trying to do other things, and so they don't notice it right away that these kids are dangerous. But then they have guns on the wall. The kids steal the guns eventually, and then at that point they start shooting at them to keep them inside the house, and they have a lot of traps and things like that, kind of like the men at Home Alone. They pour gasoline on one lady and catch her on fire, and then this other lady, she's in the bathtub, and this is probably the only nude scene I think in the film, but she's completely nude in the bathtub, and then one of the girls, Sister Hannah, like holds her face down, and then the little girl comes in with a bowl, this bowl of piranhas, which is established earlier in the movie that the Papa Doc has piranhas in the house. She pours the piranhas into the bathtub with the lady, and it's pretty gruesome. And then after that, they kill her, and then they drag her through the snow, and she's still nude. And apparently, 2 of the kids from when I was reading were her kids, so must have been kind of weird. There's actually some pretty cool kills in this scene. Several of them, most of them are not very well directed. There are probably 2 that were, but it's fairly gruesome, and just the ideas behind this movie it was pretty. At first, about halfway or 3/4 in the movie or so, probably about halfway, I was thinking, man, these kids aren't scary. But then the more I thought about it, it's scarier in a way that they just seem like they could be good kids, and they're kind of getting along with the adults, and they're having these conversations with them, and then they flip, and then they kill them, and then they're like considered their corpses, the adults' corpses, their toys, like people toys, and it's just that type of mentality where, I guess, sociopathic sort of mentality where they don't separate, fiction from reality. It is, like I was saying before, it is a fairly disturbing movie if you think about it too much. Now, on the bright side, the kids did say they had a lot of fun making the movie, and they kind of considered it like a vacation. And they didn't take it to heart that they were killing these people. They were just out having fun playing these characters, but not really getting too method about it. Now, the transfer here is a 4K transfer of this film, and I'm going to read a little bit about it, what it says about it. It says the 4K UHD disc contains the 88-minute feature presentation of The Devil Times 5, presented in HDR and newly scanned and restored from its 35mm camera negative. So it does say it was scanned from the original camera negative and restored. Now, this is a camera negative that I don't know if it's the best one available. I mean, it's probably the best one they could get hold of, but there may be a better one. And it does have that title at the front, the Horrible House on the Hill. I wasn't real impressed with the way the 4K looked. I didn't think it looked horrible. It looked very... But a lot of times you can see movies even from this time period where they've done like some work to it, where it looks like very brand new. This movie was very... It probably didn't look very good to begin with, but it could probably use a little bit of... Because, just looking at some of the wider shots earlier on, it just kind of screams 70s, which it was a 70s movie, but it kind of screams that way, and I feel like the black levels could be a little bit pulled down and maybe a little bit the bright. I mean, I'm just thinking if I was color correcting something, I would bring it down, especially on some of these earlier shots. Now, it is really cool that the movie takes place in the snow in the winter, so I like the way that there's a lot of snow around, and those type of things look cool. None of that really comes out too much in the 4K, but at the same time, it didn't really matter. This is the first time I ever saw this movie, and I was fairly impressed with it. It did have, like I said, this slow motion stuff, and some of the kills were bizarre, but just the idea behind what they were doing, and it is an earlier slasher film. Now, I'm going to rate Vinegar Syndrome's presentation of this, especially. I really like this cover art here. I think this was fantastic, but I'm just going to give it a 4 just because I wasn't thrilled with the transfer, but at the same time it's probably the best that it could be. Now, Vinegar Syndrome does a terrific job taking odd movies, like the movie I'd never heard of and an older movie that most people may not ever see, and saving them, really. They save movies like this. The movie itself, I'm going to give it a 3.5. Just because of its shortcomings, but I do think it's an effective movie. Ultimately, it is disturbing, but I did like some of the kills, but it did have a very, very strong ending. At the same time, it kind of makes you mad, even though the adult characters were set up to be unlikable, but you can still in some way put yourself in their place, and then these kids come in and they just start killing their family members and they're really business associates, but the one girl's dad and his wife, and they just start killing the people, and then it kind of makes you mad. It kind of made me want the kids to kind of get a comeuppance, but it doesn't go that way, and which makes it very dark and twisted. Anyway, if you've seen this movie, let me know what you think. I'm Dave Watkins. If you haven't done so already, if you'd like this video and subscribe, thanks for watching.